he wants to cultivate and bring them over to his home, and he wants to do that in August, they get started. But typically, we still have some infrastructure work to do that's going to be 3 to 4 months out. Would you? Yeah. Okay.
And about how often do you think? I mean, 2 times a week, once a week? How?
It's not going to be 2 or 3 times a week. It's going to be more, a couple of times a month would be my guess.
Okay.
Because a lot of times what you will find, excuse me, just briefly, a lot of times what you'll find is the person can call the, if it's for example in a church, you can call the appropriate person at the church, and the church just says it's easier for us just to go ahead and do it.
Oh, I see.
So they're coordinating, not necessarily doing it. They're making sure that someone does it at the event. They don't have to be at all the events.
I think we
That
also,
helps, thank you.
I was kind of understanding too, it might probably, in this committee particularly, it would be helpful to have people who are in different parts of our target area.
Right.
Who would be familiar with Norfolk, for example, or Columbus, or whatever part of the community we're cultivating.
And some of their work would be to find out who are the caterers that are United Methodist who might be willing to give us a break on what they typically charge for hors d'oeuvres.
Gotcha.
And to come in and set up for that and serve. And who are the 2 or 3 caterers that might be willing to do that in any given community. So a lot of it's research in the beginning. So between now and when we kick it off, it would be the research of who might be the caterers.
Thank you.
And I think we might, I think last night we found out we might have somebody we could enlist.
Well, she doesn't have
Somebody
anything
might
else to
really
do.
enjoy that if it's not during the summer season.
Okay, good to know.
Next area.
I think that was a yes.
Prospect review. So there are some people that we are going to be talking to, but we don't have anyone to fill in for that.
But prospect review is, as it sounds, reviewing who are the potential prospects. Every one of you is on the prospect review team, whether you know it or not. You know somebody that could potentially give $5,000 or more, or $10,000 or more. And so before we're done, we're going to be asking you to be thinking about who are some people that in my family or in my church or in a place where I work that I think if they heard the story, if they're not already engaged in camp, think first those that are connected to the camp. Those are the ones that are going to have the passion. But then beyond that, who are people that if they heard the story of the impact on children would be inclined to want to participate, and we would create the opportunity to share the story with them. And then we would do the work of, and this will be a full training later on, we would do the work of what's the best strategy about how to take the story to that individual, who's the best messenger for that. And it's going to take multiple meetings to do that, but who are the different people that need to be involved in that conversation with that individual to get them to a place where they maximize what they discern to be God's will. You know, in some of the material that Tom gave earlier, I was doing a training on cultivating major donors for local churches that are looking at doing capital campaigns and or just need help with starting new ministries. And one young pastor spoke up and said, I have no right to tell other people how to use their money. And I said, well, first of all, you're not telling them, you're asking them. Secondly, it's not even you that is guiding them to make the decision. Notice these words. Would you please prayerfully consider a gift for? Notice that word prayerful. Once you have asked them to prayerfully consider, who can say no to pray? Nobody's going to say no to pray. Then it's between them and God, not between you and them. Then it's in God's hands. It sure may, I'm not the kind of person that likes to go out and ask for money for something personally. But when I'm doing it for the kingdom, and I'm allowing the interaction between them and God to make the decision, I can easily go to anybody and ask for any amount of money because it's between them and God. And we're asking them to prayerfully discern what God would have them do. So there will be, As you provide names, you would be one person that would help give us information about how best to approach those individuals and put a strategy together on who starts the conversation, continues the conversation, who's the appropriate person to do the, quote, ask. And so we would help with putting that together, and prospect review is putting the strategy together for each one of those individuals and/or churches.
Prayer, we have co-chairs for that. Lynn Ashby, who you heard from earlier, is one of the co-chairs.
There is a direct correlation between the prayer activity of a campaign and the success of the campaign. And this is going to vary from having people sign up to be on a prayer e-chain that comes out on a regular basis, praying specifically this time of the campaign. It would be pray as we are for discernment of individuals being enlisted to serve in various capacities in the campaign. And as we move into more of the solicitation phases, pray for those individuals that are being approached about gifts. Doing a scheduling a prayer walk out here where you're walking around the camp and stopping and praying for the staff. You're praying for the various activities so that there's safety in different places where activities take place within the camp. Going to the site where the retreat center would be and praying for the success and being able to visualize it. And having a prayer walk across the camp to bring the Holy Spirit's influence upon people that come to the camp that then begin to prayerfully consider what their gift might be.
In addition to Lynn, the other co-chair is Carolyn Adcock. Carolyn, C-A-R-O-L-Y-N, Adcock. And she's at Rockbrook United Methodist Church along with Lynn. And speaking of Rockbrook, then we have more leadership from Rockbrook, thank goodness. We have a good communication team already put into place. Kara Hutton, that's mom there. Kara Hutton will be chairing communication. And that will also include her daughter, whose name is Karen Hutton. But you have separate addresses, right?
No, I'm living somewhere.
Okay. Kara and Karen, and then also Kate Lang.
And that's pretty obvious.
Who's sister?
Basically.
Oh, okay.
And it's pretty obvious they'll be helping us create the resources necessary to be able to tell the story. That would range from something that's more customized for individual donors that could give 6 figures to an individual, to a church that it just needs bulletin inserts, newsletter articles, and a video that they can show during a worship service. And of course, commitment cards so that and stationery so that, as well as note cards, so we can do lots of those thank you kinds of things. So they'll be designing those kinds of things, and we'll go through a whole list. There's a 12-page manual of communication resources, but we don't expect you to do it all.
Okay.
We have videos from testimonials from some staff and counselors and campers here that we did. Todd Seifert came down from the conference and did some video
Awesome.
at the beginning of the month. So we got some of that.
Great.
And we want to take advantage, obviously, of the camping season
Yes.
this summer
Yes.
to get video and
Yep.
stories.
I've got it on my list
and that
already.
kind of stuff.
Good, thank you.
We actually also have an additional sort of responsibility that we were recognizing. So you might want to put on the side that we were hoping to populate an area about recognition, kind of like the thank you portion of that. That was in some of the draft materials
Yes,
you
yeah.
received earlier.
Is that what we were calling appreciation?
Yes, we
Okay.
have, we were looking for a chair, but we have approached 2 other people who have expressed willingness to help with that kind of appreciation recognition. Priscilla Wilson being one of them, and many of you, again, have already heard from her on the phone because that has been a responsibility that she has shouldered for a long period of time, expressing gratitude kind of in a verbal way. Another person who had said that they would be willing to help in a written way is Valerie Parrish. And Valerie, you're both from Elkhorn Hills. Valerie Parrish, Valeri. Valerie, and Parrish was 2 R's, Parrish. And we don't have a chair for that.
And for recognition, that entails, they would work with the campaign leadership team and especially with Trent with regards to what's our policy going to be on naming. In faith-based organizations, we struggle often with should you put a name or not put a name on things. But for some of your 5- and 6-figure donors, if they don't have a naming opportunity, they don't find it to be quite as appealing. It inspires them to raise their level of a gift, especially if a family, for example, you might get a family gift that takes a person from $10,000 to 5 brothers and sisters, each putting 10 in, to $50,000 to be able to put do a room in memory of their mother. And so that's one of the things we have to talk through, and how do we do it tastefully and not in a way that highlights too much of the individual, but focuses on the transformation of lives. The other piece of recognition that I need to emphasize is this provides the opportunity. This is the one team that operates for 3 years versus just the campaign. Because they're going to do the follow-up with those individuals that make a commitment with ongoing stories. It's not going to look like the statement that you heard about earlier that looks like a bill. It's going to entail a story that talks about a changed life, and then at the bottom it's going to say, by the way, thus far you committed and you have given, and we're grateful for your generosity. You don't have to say you still owe. If you thank them for what they've given, they can do the math. And that's all you have to do. But the story about the transformed life, it is going to motivate them, but also they see the numbers, and you don't want to let somebody get a year behind by not following up by once a year. So they're going to do something on a quarterly basis throughout the 3-year giving period, or if somebody goes to 5 years. So that's recognition.
The second page, there's a second page of the...
Before we go to the second,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to add one. We talked about it a little bit beforehand. One of the things that impressed Tom and I as we walked around and took the tour yesterday of the camp was the way in which Trent talked about, we went over here and we got these culverts. We went over here and we got this metal siding. We went over here and we got this. We went over here and we got that. We brought so-and-so out and they did some excavation for us. And he was talking about all these different people in the community, a lot of which were not United Methodist. They're local. They want to do something for the camp because they see the benefit of the camp, and they're excited. And we're suggesting we put together a community team that finds ways to reach out to those community businesses and or individuals to either give a gift or do some in-kind kinds of service. What if somebody offered 3 days of excavation? That'd go a long ways towards some of the work that needs to be done.
How's that different than the Foundation Corporation? Because Sheila Monkey, for instance, is in the community here. Well, yeah, but...
Workload.
Community.
A lot of it has to do with workload, I would say, because foundations takes a lot of research to find out which foundations would be able to give to something like this. Versus community, you already have the relationship with a lot of them. So you can go out and start talking to them right away without having to research them. You already have the connection through members of the site council as well as the campaign leadership team. So it's in corporations I see as the larger picture versus a local 2 or 3 people that are running their own little business.
I was also understanding you kind of to be putting an emphasis on monetary gifts versus gifts in kind.
It can be either or. We're hoping for the monetary gifts because then it gives you the flexibility of you can then retain whoever you desire as a vendor to do the work. But if somebody's willing to do it in kind and it provides a service that reduces the overall cost of the building, you could put it under foundations and corporations. It adds a whole new component to it, and you're going to have to add people to it, and it could take the focus off the community. So So that's why I think we keep it the focus on community. Did that help?
It does, I'm thinking as a team, we might want to talk to Sheila about switching which one she's on.
Pastor Dennis Wheeler at Hooper came to me, he wants to find materials and things for building and so forth, through his connection and so forth. So that might be somebody he's a pastor at Hooper Faith, Fremont Trinity, and
Skyler, yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, but, all right, so let's, for that team, one of the things we need to be careful of is, this is a large project and relying on volunteers and donated services and stuff like that can slow things down. I mean,
Sure.
we've seen that on small projects, right? Relying on volunteers, or on holes, or can't be that. So, I mean, we don't want to put too much emphasis on people volunteering to be, do electrical work or dirt
Sure,
work. Because it's gonna, when they volunteer their time, it's on, the paying customers come first usually.
Sure.
And we can't, wait a year because somebody didn't have time in their schedule to do the excavating that they said they would do.
And that's why we hope, and our approach is a monetary gift that gives us the flexibility to get the vendor who's going to do it on our time frame, not on when they have the free time. So you're right.
The community piece we envision is just engaging the community with the camp that'll pay dividends not just for the capital campaign, but for ongoing operating support, just tying in. And the focus would be on money rather than gifts of kind with that community.
And these can be people that aren't United Methodist.
Right.
We don't have to just be talking to people that are in the local United Methodist churches. Okay.
Second page is the congregational phase, and at least in terms of the leadership there, it's wide open at this point. We've lifted names among our steering committee, our capital campaign committee. Some of them have been approached. As far as I know, we haven't yet heard positive responses, unless other people have it. I haven't heard about that yet.
And one of the things that we'll do with that is in each of the districts, we're meeting with the district superintendents, and sometime in the fall, hopefully earlier fall, we'll have meetings where the district superintendent hosts an event with all the pastors in their districts and expects them to attend. And in some districts, they may have one event. In some districts where the distance is further, they may need to have 2 or 3 events based on locations. But that way we can, it's a great opportunity for Tom to, as he explained to us this morning about philanthropy. A lot of people don't understand that just because you approach someone to give doesn't mean that they're going to change what they give to your local church. In reality, research proves that they increase the amount that they give to their local church because they've experienced the fiscal integrity and the life changes that comes about as a result of giving to the religious cause, the camp, and also because their church encouraged them to participate. So the district superintendents will help us to have the conversation with the pastors, and then once we get the pastors together, we will have conversations with the different churches related to where are they in their congregational life and what approach would work best, what strategy would work best within their local church. A church that's in the middle of a capital campaign, they may not have a missional component. The camp could become a missional component of their capital campaign. And they might do a dollar amount, they might do a percentage. Some churches that are really struggling financially and they're overwhelmed with debt, that type of a church may say, we'll take up an offering once a year during the 3 years. Some churches may be at that in-between where they're doing okay with their budget financially, they're not in the middle of a capital campaign, and they're willing to do a mini campaign within their local church. And we would resource them by helping them put together a mini campaign within their local church specifically for the camp. It's going to vary from church to church, and it's very hands-on, and that's the part that makes these wide area campaigns much more customized, because you don't know what you're going to encounter when you go from church to church with regards to how receptive is the pastor, and how receptive is the congregation, and where are they in their congregational life and being able to move forward and participate in some way or another.
I have a question. I don't know where it is out in the process. Are we going to have any annual conference support where we can actually bring this, where the conference is going to move, you know, like Camp Kamika, they were going to repair Camp Kamika and bring it up to date? Is there any movement from the voice of for the floor on that at any time?
Well, we have an insert that's we delivered 1,800 inserts that will go into the packets. And so there's going to be a physical paper that explains the project.
Is there going to be some, you know, at some point, because it makes a difference when the bishop says it compared to when an insert says it. That I get, you know, because when when they did for Camp Kamika, I mean, that was like a huge push.
We're meeting with the bishop on the
Okay.
23rd of June.
This
is more.
After, it's okay.
And this is it's a regional one where it's not conference-wise, we don't have to have permission from,
Okay,
you know, it's something where it'll be more regional, so.
okay, all right, I was just curious.
The insert for the conference is really more information only,
Okay.
because what we don't want to do is start contacting people in churches and then they go to their pastor and say, what's going on, I can't find out.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so we need to make sure everybody's informed about what's going on, just to keep the ball rolling on that. I don't expect that we'll have a conference-wide push from the bishop. I think we might, from our DSs, get a push.
Okay.
So I think we could also say that we would welcome that if they're willing to give it. We're uncertain. It seems like that they're cautious about trying to promote something conference-wide and perhaps take away, they think, from other camps. So I think one of the blessings of Camp Continental, as I understand it, is actually it's doing very well, better than the other camps. And that may be part of the psychology. Camp Continental is doing great. They don't need our push. Other camps need our push,
Yeah.
you know.
We're telling them what we're going to tell them, Steve. Then you tell them what you tell them, then you tell them what you don't.
Maybe we're putting the exterior around the puzzle. I don't know.
What I'd like to do now is, you have collective knowledge that we have yet to be able to pick your brains about who do you know that might fill in some of these positions. So I'd like you to just get in groups of 3 or 4 and brainstorm for a while over these different positions. Tom and I will be available, we'll be floating around. So if you want to ask for a little bit more clarification about a position, just take a few moments and brainstorm about any one of these positions and who are some people you think ought to be considered. And then give us and have one person be a scribe, write the name down, and who might be the appropriate person to approach them to serve on that particular team. So have one person be a scribe, collect the names for what position, and who might be the appropriate person to approach them if it's not already Janice or Trent or other members of the campaign leadership team. So go ahead and take,
Can I
yes,
ask a question?
sure.
I think it's important to recognize that not all staff counselors are United Methodist, not all campers are United Methodist.
True.
And how do I want us to give some thought how we approach them.
And that might be part of the community dialogue with regards to individuals, campers from other churches that regularly attend here, being able to go and have a conversation with the pastor about whether it's something their congregation might be willing to support. So yes, we need to give thought to it, and we have to make sure that they understand that this is going to enhance their own experience as a church too. So sure.
Well, I think part of it too, Trent, are we doing anything as campers, when the parents pick up campers, I know it's kind of hectic, they want to talk to the kids, they want to get home. But
We're planning on trying to incorporate something into the final program when parents are coming to pick up their kids.
that'd be something fairly short, just to.
And the opportunity maybe to go take a tour of the camp if they haven't, if they want to stick around. I mean, I doubt that they will. do that, but I mean, give them the option at least that, hey, you know, immediately following at whatever time, we're gonna get a little hayrack tour of camp or something, you know, to kind of show them if they haven't been around.
Is there any way to do it? I know it's chaos, but at registration, because parents would be more apt to want to see what their child are going to experience, and to take away their fear factor of leaving their child here instead of what they've already done. Except for if you do it with your child can say, I've done this here, or this is what I did, or this is what I learned. And so if they're doing it with their child, then their child has an opportunity to tell mom or dad or grandma or grandpa.
I think that's the way they were kind of
To
leading.
get to it.
But it is a lot more, or just want to get home.
Yes, I know, that's the problem.
Say, hey, you know, when you come pick
So
up
I
your child,
think
if you
we'll
want to.
Yeah, it would be that takes, okay, so we got.
As you get into your small groups, you will notice in the pages that follows, there's 3 or 4 bullet points for each of the positions we've talked about. So you can turn to those, and that will give you a reminder of what I shared informationally with you. Okay? So let's take about 5 minutes to do that.
If we can get Michelle.